Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I have a special guest. Okay, enough of that. This is Cannoli, Noli for short. I wanted to name her after something in fantasy romance. Well, initially I wanted a boy, so I was only thinking about boy names, which was extremely hard for me. And then I decided to get a girl instead. And I don't know, normally I'm not the person who would choose like a food name or like an odd name, but it just felt right. She is shaped like a cannoli. I liked the nickname Noli, and I think it works. All right. She is 10 weeks, almost 11 weeks. So she's been living a pretty boring life, I would say, because she can't go anywhere right now until she's fully vaxxed. But it has been better than I expected, so I'm happy to just be back, start feeling like myself again, so that way I could film videos from time to time. So I am going to put her away for a nap. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my April TBR. It is already mid to late April, so I've read a bunch of these books. I have some commentary on them, but others I've not yet gotten to. The TBR thing is hard. I really want to go into the month with an intention of what I'm going to read, but it's hard. I am a mood reader. I've seen a couple people say the same thing, like you make the TBR and then don't even stick to it, and it's difficult. But I did hit a lot of the books that I wanted to read. That being said, if I actually filmed this video earlier, I don't know if it would be the same video because I've been updating the TBR list as it goes. So let's just go ahead and get started. So after I finished acomaf, I heard a lot of people say that that was the peak, like not only SJM's peak, but like the peak for the series. So I was kind of hesitant to start acowar, but I finally got around to it. Honestly, the main motivator was that I wanted to read A Court of Silver Flames, which is when Nesta's trilogy. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy as well, but that's when Nesta's part of the series starts. And I just wanted to know, okay, let me just say that this isn't really going to be spoilery. I'm going to try and refrain just so that it's a video everyone can watch. Although this part, I'm sure everybody has read these books by this point. I am like beyond late. But I already knew that Nesta was an annoying character. She wasn't my favorite. She was very negative. Like, I already knew that she kind of pissed me off in Feyre's trilogy. But I was really wondering why. Well, I don't know, because she was really a pain. But I was wondering why people hated her so much. Like, people were very, very passionate about it. And then there was also like the Nesta defenders, like people who will die for her, defend everything that she does. So I really, like, I saw all this discourse going on and I just wanted to know why. Like, I wanted to see what she did in her book that led to all of this. But before I get to that, acowar. So I knew I had to, finish up Feyre's trilogy to be able to move forward. And this was a good book. I think I gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars. Like, I thought it was decent. It was like a good close. It made me kind of emotional in the end. How something tied together. I don't want to elaborate too much on it, but it just felt okay. I will say, I feel like this book gets a lot of flack. Like, I don't think it's boring by any means. Like, actually, once I started it, I found it so interesting. I was like, oh my God, why did I ever put this off for so long? Because I swear, I finished acomaf a few months ago. Like, it was, and I remember kind of dreading, like, it was just, again, I really wanted to get to Silver Flames, and I was dreading it. I was like, I'm going to have to read this 700-page long book. Like, do I even care anymore about these characters? And I do, and I did. And it just made me feel good. Like, I don't know. I really liked the nuanced side that was brought to a certain character. I feel like they kind of redeemed themselves, although some people may disagree. Like, they're definitely a bad person, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I don't always love, but I sometimes love a morally great character. I like seeing people get their redemption. I like seeing bad or people who have made bad choices. I like seeing those people make good choices, like, especially when they have nothing to gain. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of thing, like, I literally got goosebumps. That's the type of thing that just makes me hopeful in life. Like, I know it's so easy to like hate on the villain and like, absolutely, like, we should continue to condemn those actions, but I like to believe that hopefully if that person like acknowledges those actions were condemnable as well and like takes full accountability, which it didn't go like fully into all of that, but just I liked how that came to a close and it just made me feel good. I don't know. So it was an interesting ending. It was an emotional ending, but I didn't let me just say like I didn't find the book boring. I once I got into the book, I was actually excited to be back in the world again, and it just made me that much more pumped for Silver Flames. And let me just say, I had A Court of Frost and Starlight on my TBR list, and I had to skip it, you guys. I had to skip it. Like, I didn't even buy it. I didn't even read a preview, and y'all know why. Like, everybody talks about how this is like a waste of space. Some people may like it. I know some people swear by it, but can I just say, like, just because you like an author, just because you like a series and the characters and whatever, doesn't mean you have to like everything about it. You know, like, do you? And I didn't read it, so let me just say, like, maybe I'll be like the biggest A Court and Frost and Starlight defender, which I doubt would ever happen. But I didn't think it was necessary for me to read before getting into A Court of Silver Flames. I was just so desperate to get there, y'all. Like, I'm not even joking. So, whatever. I skipped it. Let me know if I absolutely need to go back. Can I just like go online, like find a particular scene? Like, I know that there's one really spicy scene people talk about. But like, besides that, do I really need to read it? And can I just say, I was like the biggest rhysand stan, and I'll get to that. But I don't know. I just feel nothing towards him anymore. And I think it's because Cassian has completely taken over my heart. You can see the Bat Boys sweatshirt that I got on Etsy. I think Cozy Cruise is the name of the seller. I had a full intention of reading this book this month, especially because it's short and because I don't know, maybe add another book to my yearly book total. Although that's completely, it's such an arbitrary thing that nobody cares about, but I personally have a goal of 50 books, which I think I'm going to hit anyway, but it would just be nice to kind of get the shorter book in there. Anyway, I just want to know if you guys genuinely do you think it's important? Especially after I already read Silver Flames. Like, do I need to read that book? And it's not just that, it's like buying it too, because I'm able to read so many books on Kindle Unlimited and I have the subscription. So like I know I'm paying for it, but it doesn't feel like I am, girl math. So the fact that I have to actually buy this book, I know it's not going to cost as much as the others, but do you know what I mean? Like, I need a convincing argument as to why I should read it. Okay, let's go on to A Court of Silver Flames. So let me just say, going into this book, well, I didn't hate Nesta and Acowar, but I don't know. I just kind of I didn't really like her. Obviously, I disliked her. She was a little bit I can't say this word on YouTube, but bunty. You know the word. Um, and I know that word is like super super vulgar to some people, but I mean it in the casual way, like just if you know, you know, like in the LGBT plus community, it's kind of used in a complimentary way, almost like, you know, it's giving bunt, like, you know, but I don't really mean it in a super positive way, but I don't mean it in the super negative way either. Me trying to explain why I use that word is just sending me. But, you know, I just knew she was a little bit feisty and I didn't like her yet because I didn't know much about her. Like, I know that, like, I kind of had a feeling before I went into Silver Flames, I'm going to like this girl. Like, I'm going to like her because she kind of reminds me of myself. And I feel like that's where the Nesta Defenders come from. Like, the Nesta Defenders have a little bit of Nesta in them. They felt seen, they felt represented. And although I have not gone through exactly what she's gone through, the way that she is kind of unfriendly and pushes people away and hurts the people closest to her. But then when you read that internal dialogue in Silver Flames and you see how much, like, she says something so rude and then you read the internal dialogue and she feels kind of bad about it, which it doesn't make it okay, but it's like she is very, I think, maybe not self-aware, that's not the right word, but she feels bad for the things that she does, but she feels like she can't help it. And I know people, I feel like there's two types of people who are going to comment on this. They're going to say she's toxic and abusive. I've seen this, people saying Cassian doesn't deserve her, that she's toxic and abusive and it's not okay. But then there's other people saying like this is the reality of mental illness sometimes. It's never said that she has a mental illness, but like clearly she struggles with depression. It doesn't make it okay, but it explains why she acts like that. And some people are just, okay, that's fine, you explained it, but I'm still not okay with it. That's fine. But some people are willing to walk through that journey with that person, and that's their choice. I think obviously there's a fine line between someone and their flaws, someone who lets the worst get the best of them at times, but apologizes and takes accountability and grows and changes. There's a difference between that and someone who is plain evil, like gets joy out of doing this to people, who doesn't reflect, like that's giving narcissism. I don't think Nesta is like that, in my opinion. I think that she's in a dark place, and that's explained. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Can I just say, I think I gave this book 3 stars because I will get into my critiques. This book, you know what, let me just start here and then I'll go back to my praise. This book was quite boring. Like, it was genuinely so boring. And when I say that, I don't want y'all to start talking about the Valkyries and the ending, which that wasn't a spoiler, but like, I don't want you to start talking to me about like the girl power and like the friendship that was created. Like, okay, fine. Like, you're talking about, I feel like people, when there's a good ending to a book or an exciting ending to a book, they forget the other 80% of what we went through, you know? And this book, besides the spice, like I quite literally think that without the spice, this book would have been extremely boring because it was just training and training. And let me say, I like a good training scene. Fourth Wing had quite a few training scenes, and it was a perfect opportunity for sexual tension to be created, which, by the way, that opportunity was completely missed in this book. Like, I feel like she was training with Cassian, but there was sexual tension in the sense that I guess she would avoid him and they would exchange glances and whatever, but like there was not physical stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when in Fourth Wing they're like on the mat together, and I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting something because this book was kind of long, but I just feel like there was such a missed opportunity here for the body to be used in the training to build up that tension. And you know what? Here's the thing, you guys, and I'm sure everybody knows this by now, but you have to read Feyre's trilogy to get to this. And what happens is that in Acowar, especially, that's when Nesta and Cassian's romance was heavily built and created, and that was where the slow burn happened. That was where so much of that anticipation was developed. So by the time you get to Silver Flames, I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but like we kind of get right into it. Like there's a little bit more of a slow burn, which I appreciated. And you know what? I'm here for it because, like I said, I already suffered in Acowar. Like I already waited, and there was the pining. They were already, I don't know if y'all consider this a spoiler because I'm talking about a romance, but I think everybody knows that Silver Flames is about Nesta and Cassian. But I don't know. I'm not going to say anything specific, but I will say by the end of Acowar, it's like nothing had yet happened per se, but there was so much built. It's like, how much further can you build that? Right? Anyway. So let me just say, I loved the spice. I fully enjoyed the spice. Cassian is my favorite bat boy. I grew to love Azriel even more. I've been wondering, like, why is everybody talking about Azriel? What's the tea? I mean, I already knew he was fine, but I mean, now rhysand is he's number 3. And it's no competition. Cassian is number 1. And I'm not even into those like buff guys. Like, and but I love the fan art. Like, I'm here for it. Like, when people make him look like Jason Momoa, kind of. He is just, and like literally, he's completely opposite of my type. I like skinny boys with shorter hair, and the fact that and like I don't particularly go for guys with beards. Again, not that I would ever not go after a guy with long hair and a beard or whatever the case is that's bulky and, buff, because exhibit A, I've fallen in love with this man. Like, Cassian is probably, I don't want to say my number one, but he's up there. And I remember in Acowar or something, they were talking about how he didn't have any Riz. Do y'all remember that? And I'm just like, wait, I was lied to. I was lied to. This man. Anyway, the spice was, this is what I put in my review. The smut was plentiful and delicious. I have also come to love Nesta, so there's that. But this book was generally boring and lackluster. It was too long as well. It was probably my least favorite of SJM's work, even despite the fact that Nessian is my favorite ship/couple of hers that she's ever written. 2.5-ish, because I liked Acowar's plot and pacing more. So yeah, I gave Acowar 3 and I gave this 2.5. That's extremely low. And I'm sorry, you guys. Like, if I had to rate this spice 4 stars, I don't know, y'all. It was predictable. It was boring. I really liked all the characters. I liked seeing the female friendships. I cried at the end, actually. Like, when I tell y'all, if spice wasn't on the page, I was not interested, except for the end where we got to learn about the girls. And I really liked the one scene where they were just using the magic in the house and just like summoning bubbles and summoning other stuff, like the little girls' night that they had. I thought that was super cute. There were amazing moments, but they just felt they just felt far between. That's perfect. I don't need the few part, because there was a lot of spicy scenes. There were really cute moments between Nesta and her new friends. And I just, you know what I feel like? I feel like it shaped it up nicely for us to move forward. So I'm excited to see what happens after this. And I'm so invested in Nessian that I probably will continue reading. But there were so many moments in this book, you guys, that I was drudging along, like reading slump level. I could barely deal. But let me just circle back to my point about Nesta. I completely love her now. I definitely think that she is in a really dark place. I like that Sarah J. Maas didn't shy away from that. You know what? And I talked about this in another video. I feel like people are so, I don't even know what the proper word is, but annoying towards female protagonists sometimes. Like, I swear to God, people will complain about Feyre, who is mostly unproblematic. Although I did see people complaining about Feyre and something about how the way she treated Tamlin, and I'm just like, okay, I mean, it's totally fine to have nuanced opinions. I'm not saying we need to like every single female protagonist because they're female, but and Feyre's whatever, that's just one example, but I swear people will like complain about anyone. So the fact that Nesta was so flawed, it doesn't surprise me that she gets so much hate. And you know what it is? Let me just clock this to you really quick. And I'm not saying everybody who doesn't like certain female protagonists is misogynistic or has internalized misogyny, but I will say, just for some people, I believe they're so quick to love a morally gray character, right? A morally gray man, straight man, should I say. But when it comes time to giving that grace to a female main character, where did it go? You know? So that's all I'll say about that. Let's move on to this series. I think it's called The Kindred's Curse Saga by Penn. So I heard a lot of hype about this book. I saw it all over Bookstagram. I saw a Raven-haired reader talking about it. I think I saw other people on YouTube talking about it. And I was really excited to dive into it. I will say the first 2 books, I don't know, I was just kind of confused as to why it got so much hype. I felt like people were saying it's such an original story, and it is in a lot of ways. And the way that Penn wrote the characters and wrote this series, like there were a lot of things that were different and that I enjoyed and like I had a good time. I just felt myself feeling kind of indifferent, if you will. Like, I really was not going to start book 3. I think I was going to push it to May because the 4th book comes out in June. So I wanted to push it. But something was just telling me, keep going, just finish this 3rd book. Like, you'll see why it gets so much hype. And certainly that was true. Like, once I read this 3rd book, you guys, let me say the first book is, I don't want to say short, but it's shorter. The second book is quite a bit longer. And the 3rd book, I don't know if this was just my Kindle, but it was like 1,000+ pages, you guys. But can I just say it did not feel like it? It did not feel like 1,000 pages. Like, from beginning to end, I was hooked. It was like turn after turn, twist after twist. Not even like major plot twist, but just plot twist. Like, things, because it's a journey. It's like, I guess you could say traveling. Like, they are traveling for like 50% of the book, which don't run away, don't be scared, because I know whenever I hear that I'm like, ew. But this is how you do traveling. This is how, because it's a perfect opportunity for a plot line, for a storyline, for them to be journeying through different locations together. That's the perfect plot line. But sometimes people can just make it so boring, like so stereotypical, where they're gonna be on the horse together, then they're gonna stop at the inn, and then they're gonna, maybe they can't get an inn, so then they're cuddling for warmth. And let me just say, I love these stereotypical tropes, but I'm gonna need a little bit more going on. Not just a little bit, like, it needs to be more. And so it felt like they were traveling for so long. Like I said, it was half of the book, but there were challenges along the way, and it kept you on your toes, because it was their first time encountering these kings and queens from all these different lands, and you just didn't know how it was going to go. Like, I guess you could say there was character armor, but the way that Penn Cole really dangles that carrot, like, at times I did not know if certain people were going to survive. And like, I don't think that's a spoiler, but just to say, like, she doesn't you know how sometimes in books it's like they want to like scare you with the possibility that someone may not survive this thing, or they want to scare you that this person's dangerous. And then like something happens, but the threat is like immediately eliminated, or the person heals overnight or in 2 days, which is fine. But in this book, people might think, oh, that was a waste of my time, but that's real life. Like, sometimes it can take a while to see results. Sometimes you make it so far that you think all hope is lost. Sometimes hope is lost. Like, I'm not trying to say that nothing bad happens. It's just, that's what I'm saying, is like, in this book, you don't know. You really don't know. And I felt myself being surprised a lot of the time by the things that happened. Our female main character is very gracious. Like, she wants to see the good in everyone, which can be frustrating for the reader sometimes, because it's like, girl, this person's objectively bad. This person has showed their ass. Like, even if somebody has literally shown their ass once, twice, she still trusts and like wants to believe that they could turn around, and has faith in them, which I feel like can work on some people. But I'm hoping that in the 4th book we really start to see, like, girl, sometimes people are just, maybe that doesn't make them a bad person, but like, sometimes people are not going to be on the same page. Like, it's time to get into your villain era. That's just my opinion, but I don't think she's ever going to get into her villain era. I'm thinking of this other character, Deanna, from the Book of Azriel, and her villain era was a little bit excessive, but I really loved seeing that. Like, I love seeing female rage. I'm reading another book now, which I'll get to later, where the female rage is present, and it is interesting, like, reading about Diem and her not being like that at all, which I think is great. Like, that makes her different. Like, sometimes you have these ruthless female main characters, which we love that. Sometimes you have the female main characters who are like too scared to kill anybody, even when it's necessary. And I will say DM is more like that. Like, she literally is that type who's going to hesitate with her weapons or with her magic. And this was the slowest burn that I've ever read. Like, it was not until this 3rd book, you guys, which I told you was like 1,000+ pages, until the last 10% of the book that we got something. And I will say, for me, it wasn't really that fulfilling. I don't know. I think that's the point of the slow burn, is that it's so much more satisfactory when you finally get to it. And it just didn't quite feel that way, because because at the end of the day, it's not that serious, right? like the act is not that serious. But there is a way to make it like so elaborate or so crazy and so fantastical since this is fantasy. And I don't feel like we got that, which is fine. It was fine. Like it was fine, but I just felt like what was the reason? What was I'm just really passionate about that, where I feel like there needs to be a fine line about like, in my opinion, my personal preference. I feel like the slow burn could have been just as great, just as painful if we had something a little bit sooner. Like there was one or two moments, okay? But it's just like, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like Silver Flames was quite a bit. I liked it, but it was quite a bit. I read other books where it was just way, way too much, and we were so not focused on the plot. So it's like I still enjoyed the books. Like I'm not one of those people who's just like I need to read like hardcore smut start to finish in order to engage me. Obviously not, since I made it this far. But it's like it doesn't land for me when you teased me that long, and then I get that. Like I'm not saying it was bad. It definitely like met my expectations, but it did not exceed them. That being said, I gave the third book, I think 5 stars, just because it really blew me away. Like how it kept me engaged for all 1,000 pages. Like the only reason I didn't finish it quicker is because I got a puppy recently, and I could only read it in like a few hour intervals. But like I kept wanting to go back to it, and that's a really good sign, because I feel like if I'm in a reading slump, or if I don't like a book, or if the book is under like maybe not acowar, but A Court of Silver Flames, that one, every time I came back to it, like several times throughout the book, I was like, ugh, Googling when is the next spicy chapter again. Again, not that I need spice to keep me entertained, but because the plot was not holding me over. So it's like, okay, all that I have to look forward to is the ending of the book where everything kicks off, and then the spice. I'm currently reading When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I started with To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, but it was making me feel a little bit uncomfortable, considering the male main character rescued her when she was like a child, like I think like 2 years old or something. And now he's basically kidnapped her, I think. I don't know. Like it's a weird dynamic, but it's just the age gap for me. And I think a romance is going to form. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not what I think. Maybe he's, I don't know. But it's just making me feel weird right now. And it's not sitting right. But I want to go back to it. I heard a lot. Like, that book has mixed reviews, and that series has mixed reviews. I feel like I see a lot more praise for When the Moon Hatched, and that's her newer book. So I wanted to stop To Bleed a Crystal Bloom and go over there. And I heard that the writing was very flowery. I heard that from Raven Haired Reader and what's her name? Brittany's Books, I think. I love her channel. It definitely is. Like, I felt like my brain was breaking when I read the prologue. I don't think it was labeled a prologue, but still, when I was reading about the gods or whatever. And I'm still a little bit confused about the magic system, but I love how unique it is. It's like something about her singing, or like her voice. Like, the power of the gods comes through her voice somehow. And she's able to, like, it's magic in that way. She's able to do things with her voice. And I won't spoil it. I'm not even that far in, but there is crazy female rage. Like it kicks off pretty early on, like second or third chapter. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what I expected. Like, I feel like the synopsis for this book, and whenever I watch reviews, it's kind of vague, and it's like hard for me to understand what this book was even about. Because now that I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this is not what I thought it was at all. So I enjoy that, but it's just, if I knew this, I probably would have read it sooner. But our main character, she seems like a badass. She's female rage personified. I don't know much about the male love interest yet, but I have seen like some spicy quotes floating around. Like I know that the romance and the spice level is like, I don't know, a big reason why I picked it up. So I'm just looking forward to that. I will let you guys know how this book goes. It is a bit longer, like I said, a bit flowery. So I was kind of struggling with it at first, but now I'm really enjoying it. Like, I think that it's amazing that Sarah can write like this. So anyway, that's my TBR so far. It's a little bit shorter. I was reading like crazy, and then I got my puppy, so it slowed down a little bit. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.